Because of the following special broadcast, The Lucy Show and The Andy Griffith Show will not be presented this evening.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here, unable to pay my light bill. That's why I'm in darkness. No, not true at all.
I don't believe that.
Yeah. Happy to welcome back Alex Segura to Word Balloon. Good to see you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's become a tradition. It's always good to be here. It feels like just hanging out. Well, I am hanging out with an old friend, so yeah, it's all good.
Absolutely, man. Well, first of all, I want to say we're all you and I are going to be at Terrificon. We're taking a pass on San Diego as we record.
Yeah,
it's preview night, but we're both. I won't deny, Alex. There's part of me that's like, I wish I was there. I always feel like a kid that has a broken leg and he's watching from his bedroom window, and all the other kids are playing on the street, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah, there's always that sense of FOMO, I guess. You wish you were there. You see all the panels. For me, it's like the old publicity brain kicks in. I see all the announcements come in, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting, or that's cool how they played that. But I went from 2006 every year until I want to say right before the pandemic. So it's not to say that I don't want to go back. It's like it's okay to take a year off every now and again.
Absolutely, no, definitely. Very expensive summer camp is how I refer to San Diego Comic-Con.
Ironically, BoucherCon is in San Diego this year too, so I'll be there next one.
Oh wow! Okay, I was going to ask when BoucherCon was.
That's
a free novelist convention for people who don't know.
Yeah, Secret Identity is up for the best novel Anthony Award. So
hey, that's great! Congratulations.
Yeah,
here's the Audible cover, but it's basically the same cover as the hardback or the paperback. Mm-hmm. Wonderful, man. Congratulations. That's excellent. We spoke about Secret Identity, I think the last time we did one of these. But yeah, that great novel, and great to hear. That's terrific.
Yeah. It's been it's the book that keeps on chugging along. It won the LA Times Book Prize. It's been nominated for some other stuff, and I'm really proud of it. I'm happy that people are responding to it.
Understood. David Hassan says con FOMO is worse if you live on the wrong side of the world. Well, I hope there are conventions by you, David, that you can attend. And again, we got, Alex and I have Terrificon in a week, which is on the East Coast, but certainly a really nice summertime convention. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's my first time going. The lineup is insanely good. Like so many great creators. And you'll be there. We'll get to catch up.
Yeah.
In person. It's been way too long, but yeah, I'm excited just to see some friends I haven't seen in a long time and meet some readers and do some panels. And yeah, it just feels like a really fun old school comic show.
Yeah. The only lousy thing was I was all set to do 2 Star Trek celebrity panels.
Oh yeah.
And the SAG strike, and again, I keep reinforcing this for people who maybe missed a couple episodes, and Mitch has been on to confirm it as well. Most of the celebrities, I think a couple people out of loyalty to the union and just feel like I don't want to go at all, and we all respect that. But really, I would say 90%, if not 95%, of the talent is going to be there, and they are able to do autographs and photographs. They're just not able to do panels. So
right.
that gives them a break that they don't have to sit and listen to me ask them questions for 2 different hours.
I mean, that would have been a treat, but next time.
Oh yeah. So it's okay, and I get to meet everybody still. So it's all right. But also, we're here to talk about a couple books that you've got out right now. First of all, we got Aranya, Spider-Man 2099, a great crossover with Aranya and Miguel O'Hare.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, if you enjoy the Spider-Verse films, and it seems like everyone unanimously loves them, especially the new one. This is kind of in that flavor. That's got the same flavor. It's a time-hopping adventure. It's a teenage superhero, spider hero, Anya Corazon, hops into the future and runs into Miguel O'Hara, except Miguel O'Hara is not the kind of wide-eyed new hero that she is. In fact, he's done being Spider-Man. And so she has to basically convince him to come back into the spider suit, and he has to learn from her as she learns from him to basically save the universe from being annihilated by an obscure, but I think is great Spidey villain. Like, I'm still kind of pinching myself that they let me use him as the big bad, Judas Traveler.
Wow.
Yeah, it was neat. And it's got a lot of Easter eggs if you're a Spider-Man fan. It's a YA novel, but I always write my stuff kind of for all audiences. So I think it'll appeal to adults as well and to younger readers. But yeah, if you're a Spider-Man fan, it's got all the stuff you need, but it's also welcoming enough that if you're just watching the movie and you want to read something that's kind of in that vein and don't know all the intricacies of continuity, you won't be lost.
That's great. Did you get a chance? Because I know some of the other people that have written 2099 tie-in books recently were able to create some new 2099 heroes and villains. And without spoiling, did you have that opportunity with this series?
No, Miguel O'Hara, Spidey 2099 was such an important book for me as a kid. Just seeing a Latinx Spider-Man felt so important that I really just kind of enjoyed driving the car, just playing with Miguel. Lila's in there, Gabriel's in there, Dana's in there. So it was very much a love letter to, the Peter David and Rick Leonardi run, which was so important to me as a reader. But there's a few cool nods to 2099 and that future. But it was a thrill. And obviously Aranya is great. And the fun part was I wrote the novel, but then, Nick Lowe at Marvel said, do you want to write an Aranya story? So I wrote one for Edge of Spider-Verse, the last volume, and then Edge of Spider-Verse #4, which just came out last week. So it's cool to have written this sort of origin story for her in prose and then reestablished her as Aranya because she was Spider-Girl briefly, or for a while, actually, she was Spider-Girl, but reestablishing her as Aranya in the Marvel Universe in comics, that was pretty, multi-platform, I guess.
That's great. I also noticed it is an Audible book as well, and you've got a woman narrating it and everything. So, Aranya in her own voice, basically. Tell her story.
Yeah, no, it's great. The audio, I'm a big audiobook listener, so they did a great job. And, the Secret Identity audiobook is fantastic. And she does the comic book sequences great justice, because I was worried about that. I was like, how are they going to, I probably sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I was really worried about how they were going to create the comic book sequences in audio, but she really did a nice job. And there's special effects and a lot of, it sounds similar to what they do with the Star Wars and Star Trek audiobooks with a lot of sound effects and voice modulation and things like that. And I got to meet the audiobook narrator at an event, and I was like, how did you do all that? And, did you go to a studio? She was like, no, I did it in my closet.
Sure. No, a lot of them do.
It's amazing. Yeah.
My buddy Mike, who's on our podcast with Art and Franco, he does audiobooks, and he does them from his closet. I have other voiceover friends who do it as well. And here's ironic timing. Mario says, I just finished listening to Aranya and Spider-Man 2099. It was great.
Oh, thanks so much.
And Megan says the strikes are really going to bang up San Diego this week. Hope everyone still has a fun time out there. Yeah, I look forward to talking to the creators that are out there and hearing what it is, because it's going to be very interesting. Certainly, even prior to the strike, a lot of the major studios were pulling out of Hall H events.
Yeah,
but even more so now. And both, I wonder what it's going to look like outside the convention center. Are there going to be protesters outside the convention center? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I don't know either. We'll see how it all shakes out. But it is going to be interesting. And then
that's the thing about San Diego. Every year is a little different. There's always some kind of different element that throws a wild card. And this is obviously a really big one because it affects so many parts of the SDCC ecosystem. So I'm really curious to see how it plays out.
I haven't had a chance to see Spider-Verse yet, I have to confess.
I like it.
Is Aranya in it, or?
Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's very interesting if you like these characters and watch the movie, and then you can go on to the book. Miguel obviously is a big part of Spider-Verse.
Certainly, that I knew.
Yeah,
that I
did. But I will say that the Miguel in the novel is is more akin to the Miguel in the comics, which isn't to say they're very different, but the Miguel in the movie is much sharper, I guess, is the best way to describe it, which isn't bad. And it just continues my streak of doing things in relation to Oscar Isaac. The Poe Dameron book, I wrote a Moon Knight. Moon Knight was in an Avengers Infinity comic I wrote, and then now writing Miguel O'Hara. So, we're basically best friends.
Excuse me.
No worries.
Also this week, or I should say, came out last week, July 11th, the Green Lantern Night Terrors. And I love this idea. I think Josh has another good event under his belt, but also it gives everybody an opportunity to play with this idea, this character. I didn't remember reading him prior to Josh's first issue.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a Sinestro story in this Green Lantern book.
Correct.
Jeremy Adams is doing the Hal story, but you're doing the Sinestro story.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. It's such a cool. I mean, I've done a few things for DC. I wrote a Question story and a Superman story and the Kal-El Return special. Both really great, fun experiences. And it's been kind of a homecoming, having worked there for so long in the publicity department, and then coming back creatively was a thrill. But what I loved about what Josh came up with is that it's a big crossover. It's a big event, but it also gives you enough room to further your stories in the ongoing. So when Paul Kaminsky, the editor, brought me aboard, I had a call with Jeremy, the writer of the GL series. And I said, look, I'm just here I want to further whatever you want the story to be. And I want to make sure that this is additive. And so, Sinestro is this master of fear. So what happens when he has a nightmare? That's got to be a really messed up experience. And he also has a very strong ego. So it's a very reflective story. It's really trippy. Mario Fox Fucillo does the art, and he does a great job. He really brings a Lynchian quality to the whole thing that I wasn't expecting. And what I really wanted was him to cut loose, and he did. Just kind of make this as weird and creepy and horrific as possible, because we're seeing Sinestro at his lowest point. He's stranded on Earth. He doesn't have that yellow ring that can strike fear into anyone around him. And he's really doubting himself, especially coming out of Dark Crisis, where he was manipulated and controlled by this greater evil. So, what does a great man at his lowest point think about? And I think that's really the kind of the guiding light for the two-parter. And the second part, which comes out next month, is really amps up the darkness for him. And we end on a mysterious note. So it was a blast. Yeah.
Are these also potentially launching new books for, much like the Lazarus Planet kind of launched a few books? Do you know?
I can't speak to it generally. I know the Sinestro one is just a backup, because the Sinestro part will then weave into the greater Green Lantern story. So yeah,
sure.
That's
Okay. And also, like you say, I mean, Dark Crisis, obviously Sinestro was in some trouble. Is he at anti-hero level now, or is he trying to get it?
Well, that's the question. That's kind of what we explore. This is a character that's so complex in that he was a Green Lantern, which it doesn't get more heroic than a Green Lantern, but he was a very flawed Green Lantern. And then he doubled down and became a Yellow Lantern and full-on villain, destroying galaxies, murdering. And I think the big theme for the two-parter is which Sinestro is Sinestro, and can he go back to being a hero? Should he just become more of a villain, or is there an in-between? And that's kind of where we leave it.
He's he was the best of the best before Hal came along, and in fact taught Hal, but also was taught by Abin Sur, and we see Abin Sur in the first part of your story as well, and we see him in Jeremy's story. Which I love too.
That was a nice duality to it, that he used Abin Sur as well, and so it was fun to collaborate with him. Jeremy and I are very similar writers in that we kind of hone in on the character first and let the plot spring out of that, which works. I think it works not just in novels, but in comics as well. And it's something that Wade says a lot too. You look at the character and just see who the character is, strip away the barnacles, which he does so well, masterfully, strip away the barnacles and focus on what the character is. So that's what I try to do too. You just look at it and, what makes this character tick, what makes him interesting. And I can worry about the continuity and the little footnotes later, but you want to tell a story that resonates with the character.
Fair enough. You also, as we said, you've got your Poe Dameron novel here, Free Fall. But also, I guess you were telling me this week there's a new Star Wars comic that you did as well, a one shot.
Yeah, it's a one shot. It's a Star Wars Return of the Jedi Rebellion #1, and it's part of the series of one shots Marvel's doing, celebrating the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. And in many ways, it's a soft prequel to Poe Dameron Freefall. You don't have to have read Freefall to understand what happens in the one shot, but it focuses on Admiral Akbar as he learns about an assassination plot on Mon Mothma in the days leading up to the Battle of Endor. And so Akbar, they're short-staffed. Everyone's kind of speeding along towards this big battle with the still forming Death Star. So Akbar assigns the mission to Kes Dameron and Shara Bey, and basically says, we got to figure out who's trying to kill Mon, because if they take her out, we're really in deep trouble before this big battle. And so they find out it's tied into the Spice Runners of Kijimi, which plays a big part in the later trilogy, but also in the Poe Dameron novel. It's a fun espionage adventure, lots of spycraft, a lot of dark battles, in mysterious places, and it was fun for me because, like, who wouldn't want to write Admiral Akbar or Mon Mothma, who is so compelling in Andor and also obviously in other films, but it was just fun. And Matt Horak is the artist. I got to work with Danny Kazem, the editor, and Brent Peoples also penciled a few pages. It's a really fun team. And you could see that everyone was really just pouring themselves into the story, like adding into the Star Wars mythos, like adding into any great tapestry type universe was a blast. And even being able to add to something that I had written, kind of echoing another work, felt like a trip. Like it's like a mini universe within the Star Wars universe.
Totally, man. No, and I have to say, I really enjoyed when Dark Horse had the license. And Marvel has done as great of a job, and I think the original stories that are coming out of Marvel all these years now, it's been terrific. Is there a level of Lucas vetting as well as your Marvel editor for something like the one shot?
Yeah, I think anything Star Wars related is going to go through. Star Wars has this governing body called the Story Group, where it's a group of people that and they're not just continuity cops. It's really to see, is this an additive story? Like, how does this element fit into the greater story? So, but they're always, with the Poe book and with this, they're always welcoming of new voices and also want to read different takes. They don't want you to just write like stuff that's already there. They want it to feel different and new, which is good. So
very cool. A lot of our friends have done adaptive original novels, and people like Mark Wolfman, Stuart Moore come immediately to mind. Did you ever talk to them about when you started writing this kind of adaptive stuff? How different is it doing adaptive novels versus adaptive comics?
It's interesting because I wouldn't say they're adaptive per se in that they're original stories that fall under the umbrella, but someone whose work I looked at a lot was Greg Rucka. He's written. Greg's a friend. Greg is a constant inspiration in terms of his skill and ability. Even writing the question, I got to write a question story, so I definitely went back and reread what Greg was doing. But Greg also wrote a prose Poe Dameron story. So as I was getting ready to write the prose Poe novel, I read that. I read a lot of Charles Soule, who wrote the Poe ongoing, but also is a great novelist and a great comic book writer. So those are the people I look to, and I think whenever you're playing in a bigger sandbox, you want to figure out what you're good at and what you can add to it, instead of just trying to, cover the hits.
I got to go back and check out your question story.
Oh yeah, I think you'll dig it
before next week when we talk next week.
Yeah.
Was it Renee or was it Vic?
It was Renee. Yeah, Renee.
Renee. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, it was part of the Lazarus Planet Legends Reborn one shot, and so I got really lucky, and Clayton Henry drew it, and Clayton's doing the the Son of Kal-El series miniseries with Tom Taylor, which is fantastic, and he did a great job art wise, and so you'll appreciate this. Renee is chasing a serial killer named George Dennis Elroy. Which is a little nod to some of my favorite crime writers in James Elroy.
Oh, I got you. Sure.
Yeah, George Pelicanos, Dennis Lehane.
That's great. It didn't even occur to me, Dennis Lehane.
No, it was funny. Yeah. But Clayton kind of knocks it out of the park, and for me, my favorite question stories have an element of the supernatural, but also it pulls Renee out of being the commissioner. She's the commissioner of Gotham City now, so she's kind of put the costume aside, but she also realizes that this is the kind of case that her detectives just aren't equipped to handle. It's just going to overwhelm them and threaten them. So she steps in and figures it out.
That sounds great, man. Oh, Pete Beiser, thank you very much for the tip. He's bummed not to be in San Diego. We get our own panel here. We'll definitely pick up that Poe book, Alex.
Thanks
for the great conversation. Well, thank you, Peter. And hey, man, that's Word Balloon. Word Balloon is the con panels that never end. And not only tonight, but I will tease as well tomorrow night. I'm talking to Jesse Blaze Snyder about a new comic Patreon, or not Patreon, a crowdfunder that he's got going for a new idea. So that's happening. And next week, if all goes well, and everyone who said yes definitely shows up right now, definitely on the docket, Sean Martinborough, a week from today. Very excited to talk to Sean for the very first time. And my good friend Svengoolie will be joining me.
Oh, cool. Will there be a Dan DiDio appearance?
No, but we're certainly talking about the new Svengoolie anthology comic that Dan shepherd to Frank Miller Presents. And you know well that Dan's a big Sven fan. That's why Sven had the one shot at DC as well when Dan was still running things. So no, it's I'm excited. And I always love talking to Svengoolie. He's
that'll be cool.
Good friend and a Chicago legend, and I'm so happy for him that at this point in his career that he's a national name and
a treasure.
Absolutely, man. No, and
that's very cool.
Did you have a local horror host where you grew up? A horror movie host?
I didn't. I usually was watching like Star Trek, the original series in black and white or something late at night as a kid. Or
sure.
What was the name of that like puppet show? That like political parody puppet show in the 80s? Do you remember that?
There were a couple. There was Spitting Image. That was the British one,
right? The U.S. one.
DC Follies.
DC Follies. That's
sure.
It. So I remember watching that a lot as a kid, some old TOS stuff. That's what got me into Star Trek. And I didn't see it in color until I was older, until TNG was on.
Jeff Loeb always laughed at me because the first two Bond films I saw were when I was a little kid on TV, and they were on black and white televisions. So I assumed Dr. No and Goldfinger were black and white movies.
Yeah.
And it was a great shock when the VHS rental stage happened and stuff, and it's like, oh, they're in color. All right. What? It was just a surprise.
Yeah.
So are you watching new Star Trek, Alex?
Yeah. We just caught up on Picard. I mean, my TV viewing is not as expansive as it was maybe a couple years ago, but we caught up on Picard, which, look, I like the third season. It should have been the first season. That's my 2 cents on the whole thing. I like some of the characters that were introduced in the first 2 seasons, but it didn't feel very essential, I guess. And I'm really loving Strange New Worlds.
I really enjoyed the first season of Strange New Worlds. I have to admit, I feel like, I don't know. I like that they're focusing on individual characters each week on Strange New Worlds, and I think that's good. Yeah. But for instance, that most recent Spock episode, I'm like, come on, man.
I'm behind. I haven't caught up, but
all right, that's all.
I don't doubt you. Yeah, I trust you.
Well, we'll see. We'll talk next week if you get a chance to watch a little more.
But I also feel like, I mean, it's a golden age for Trek. I think there was such a dry spell for years and years and years after Enterprise, ended. There was just nothing. And, Discovery, for its fault, whatever issues people have with the story, it did launch this new era where we got Patrick Stewart back.
I agree.
So I have very little to complain about.
Well, the bummer is, honestly, I feel like Prodigy is one of the best new products they made, and to nix the second season. Although my hope is kind of like Batman Caped Crusader, that it'll find a different streaming platform so that the second season will happen. But then to yank off the first season off of Paramount Plus too, it's like, man, you guys don't get it. I mean, it reminded me of the Justice League cartoon from the WB in that it was aimed at Y7s, but it got this adult audience. I feel that way about Prodigy, and it's really some of the smartest Trek storytelling. I don't know if you watched Prodigy.
I haven't. Yeah, I have watched Lower Decks, which I love. but I haven't. Yeah, like I said, I'm not watching that much television, but always make room for stuff like Picard or Strange New Worlds. I'm still behind, but yeah, and I've been rewatching some old DS9 stuff.
Oh, there you go, man. No, and hey, I just talked to Andrew Robinson, Garrick.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited to see. Is Terry Farrell still coming to?
Yes, all the Star Trek people are still coming. So
good. Well, you'll have to take me with you when you say hi to them.
Oh my God, yeah. Jonathan Frakes, Terry Farrell, Andrew Robinson, Jeff Combs, and oh God, who's number 5? I can't remember right now. So it's because it's 3. It's Jeff Combs, Terry Farrell. Oh yeah, Rebecca Romaine. Shame on.
Oh wow, yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's a great lineup.
And yeah, man. No, it's gonna. So again, at least we can talk to them at their tables or in the green room. So we'll have a chance to take some selfies.
Yeah, I would definitely love that.
Oh God, yeah. And God, Andrew Robinson. Not only did and you'll appreciate this because you're a big crime guy as well. Of course, when I talked to him, had to talk Dirty Harry. But I'm betting this early '70s Mathau movie, Charlie Varick.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Andrew's great in that movie too.
Yeah.
Baker and everybody. No, and also it blew my mind. I had forgotten that Andy played Liberace in a biopic.
He'll love that. He'll love that you're mentioning that to him. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, no, we did. We already we talked last Friday.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you know about that stuff." And I'm like, "Andy, you're like multi-talented, man."
Yeah.
Of course,
you're not just a Cardassian. Yeah.
Right, and the majority of it was obviously about Garrick. Well, too. Speaking of audiobooks, he wrote that Stitch in Time DS9 novel like 20 years ago, and August 1st, the audiobook finally comes out. And
I've got it on my Audible, but I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, it's not out yet. It's going to be August 1st, but I pre-ordered.
I mean, the pre-order,
Yeah. No, I'm excited, man.
I mean, those Trek novels were so formative for me as a reader, like a sci-fi reader as a kid. Like they had some great writers. They still do. Michael Jan Friedman, Peter David, Diane Duane.
John Jackson Miller's another.
John Jackson Miller. Yeah, I saw him at Florida SuperCon a couple weeks ago. Bob Greenberger, who was a longtime editor at DC.
Absolutely, yes.
Just some great talents. And I don't know if I told you this, but I'm co-writing a sci-fi novel that's coming out next year called Dark Space. Yeah.
Excellent. That's fantastic. I was going to ask you if you've tried to pitch either to the Star Trek novel people or now IDW.
Yeah, I mean, I love Star Trek. I'm a huge fan, so that's always like front of mind. People, there's always conversations going on, but I would love that. I would love to play in that sandbox. And Dark Space is in many ways like my love letter to that kind of sci-fi, that kind of like ship exploring new worlds idea without feeling like, the Orville or something that's just like clearly like riffing on Star Trek. But, evocative, but not repetitive.
I like the Orville. I got to be honest, and I mean it grew on me. The first season was kind of, second season was better. That third season, my God, I mean there are 10 mini movies essentially.
Oh really? Yeah, I never got past the first few episodes, but it just wasn't for me in that moment. I'm sure I know a lot of people that love it.
They really upped their game, and also Brandon Braga, who longtime Trek writer and producer and stuff, joined the team.
Oh, cool!
In the second season, but really was right there with Seth really planning that third season. And they're mini movies. They're like 70-minute episodes, all of them.
Wow.
So
I was really bummed to see Manny Cotto died.
I know. It broke my heart too.
Yeah, that was really a bummer.
Man, I take a breath when they're that close to my age. He's only a couple years older than me, 62. And yeah, man, I don't know if you ever listened to any Star Trek podcast, but the Inglorious Treksperts is a really good one. It's the guy. It's Mark Altman who did.
I read his book. Yeah,
I was going to say he co-wrote the 50-Year Mission books.
Those books are great.
And he he had a great tribute panel with Mike Sussman and Brandon Braga talking about Manny, and then he played his. I'm assuming it was his whole interview that he did for the 50-Year Mission book with Manny.
Oh wow!
And it was great to hear his thoughts on Enterprise. God, they almost they tried really hard to get Shatner to be on Enterprise, and he tells the whole story. It's in the book too, everybody.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, that's a great oral history of all things Trek.
Agreed. Are you? And I know you're not watching a lot of TV, but given our current circumstances with the writers' strike and the SAG strike, Mark Allman also made this great documentary that they were, I think, going to release as a movie, but then it became a TV show on the CW, and it's called 1982 Greatest Geek Year Ever.
I saw that pop up on us on when you're browsing the streamer, but I think I bookmarked it, but I have not seen it yet.
It's really good, and honestly, I think inadvertently shows the risks that studios were willing to take back then on original ideas compared to today. And Dean Devlin comes right out and says it, that he was pitching an idea recently, and all the studios were like, well, that sounds great, but we'll never do it. And he's like, why not? And they're like, well, it's not based on anything. And it's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
But,
I've been watching a lot of, Alan J. Pakula films, Sidney Pollack movies.
Attaboy, sure.
Yeah. Just like All the President's Men, Parallax View. What did I watch recently? The Pelican Brief, which I hadn't seen in years, but actually holds up really well. It's just one of these, I think a friend of mine on Twitter mentioned, it's like wearing a comfortable pair of shoes. Like, it's just a good movie. The soundtrack's good. The cast is great. It's very tightly plotted. There's a lot of, subtext. Even The Firm, I don't know why I'm on a Grisham kick, but I watched The Firm, which is a Sidney Pollack film. Great soundtrack, very underrated soundtrack.
David Grusin, the jazz pianist. Yeah.
Amazing cast, like top to bottom. Gene Hackman at his best. It's just good stuff.
No, I'm with you on that. Have you seen on Netflix The Diplomat, the Kerry Russell?
Yes.
Was that great?
Very good. Yeah, I think. That's kind of the kind of stuff I want to watch, where the characters are really complicated, the conflicts are ever evolving. You see the characters change. Like, she's very different in the first episode, and she's very different by the end. There's an arc there, which isn't to say shows don't do that, but the shows that do it well, like The Bear. I don't know if you've seen The Bear.
I love The Bear. Absolutely,
so good. We just finished the second season. Really strong character work. I love when stories pull you into an industry you're not familiar with. I love to do it with books. You bring the elements of noir into an industry you're not familiar with, whether it's comics or what have you, newspapers. But I know nothing about working in a restaurant. I was a waiter for like a day before I got fired. I've never worked in the kitchen, and so it was really fascinating. And the characters are also different and so well written. It was that one episode, I won't spoil it, but that one like Christmas episode was just intense, so intense.
For the current season?
Yeah.
All right, I got to catch up because Slot was raving about it to me.
Yeah, you got to see it. You may never watch it again because it's so intense. But and I don't mean that in a like extreme. It is extreme, but it's emotionally extreme in the way like we interact with our family. The buttons that family pushes that only they can push because they built them. But it's a lot to unpack there.
Well, that show, God, my dad had both at different times, a pizzeria in Chicago, a diner in Chicago. So all that, and then really a lot of the places that they highlight in the series, exactly.
I think you'll love it. You should definitely catch up. I think you'll dig it.
Oh no, I will. Well, unfortunately that's the good byproduct of the strike. It's like, all right, well, there's a lot of TV to catch up on, so I'll do that. What sucks, man? And I say this to you as a fellow noir fan, something's going on at Turner Classic Movies on their website, because I've been trying to watch a couple recent. In fact, I think it was all yesterday. They had. I don't know if you've ever seen The Late Show from the '70s.
Yeah,
Art Carney and Lily Tomlin. It's been a long time since I've seen that. I wanted to watch that, and then one I've never seen. It's a very early Douglas Sirk movie called Lured, and it's Sanders and Lucille Ball.
Oh, wow.
And it's this British mystery. Kind of reminds me, at least from the description, of Sea of Love, where they're trying to lure a serial killer through personal ads.
Huh.
And Lucy's the bait. And this is pre I Love Lucy. Well, Dark Corner. I mean, Lucy, for people who don't know, Lucy made a lot of really interesting movies and and dramas and comedies leading up to it.
Very versatile.
And yeah, man, I mean, Dark Corner is such a great movie. And folks, you can see it on YouTube if
And so it's just not coming up on TCM for you?
Well, yeah, it was on because it ran yesterday. And I subscribed to TCM. I went to the Watch TCM platform, and 90% of the movies there weren't opening up. And it's weird. And it's like, Warner's, you can't get, if it's your old bosses, you'll forgive me. They can't get out of their own way. and God, I'm sure you heard too, almost a month ago, they were going to fire the program director, and Scorsese and Paul Thomas Anderson and Spielberg intervened and called Zaslav, the CEO, and it's like, what are you doing? Don't we understand there's budget cuts, but like Turner has been, it's almost been 30 years. It'll be 30 years in next year of that channel, and we all love it. And the great thing is too that they have a strong young following. So it's not just old farts like me and people older and stuff, that it really is like 20 somethings get into it too. And it's like, please don't screw this up.
It's a great resource. It's a great resource. It's a great historical document. I mean, I reference it a lot. I mean, I love Noirvember, the November where everyone's like watching film noir. That's when I kind of tap into that. But I hope it kind of rides it out. It's just a very uncertain time.
Me too. I've kind of gotten to know Eddie Muller, the host of Noir Alley.
I saw him. He was at the Edgar Awards this year because he.
Oh, that's great.
He won an award, and that was neat. And he's just a great part of the community.
Absolutely, and a sweetheart of guy, massive comic book fan.
Yeah,
so funny. My buddy Mike put us together on a show, and Mike is the art director for the Noir City magazine that they make.
Mm-hmm. And Mike Cronenberg,
Mike Cronenberg, absolutely. And we
huge Batman fan.
Indeed, as is Eddie, and Eddie was like all excited to talk comics, and Mike kept nudging the talk to Noir City more. And I know Eddie's like, oh man, I talk about this crap all the time. Come on, let me talk comics. So I emailed him, I'm like, Eddie, please come back. So hopefully, we'll get Eddie back, and we'll have that pure comic book.
Oh yeah, I'd love to hear that.
But yeah, he's a great guy. But I honestly I can recommend that 1982 documentary series, because so many, you forget not only the great movies. Well, first of all, not only the great nerd movies. Right. You got Poltergeist, you got E.T., you got Star Trek 2, but Night Shift was 1982.
Yeah.
Officer and a Gentleman was 1982.
Oh wow, that's right.
And then crap that we love because it's kitschy genre stuff like Megaforce. Harry Botswick movie. I believe I'm saying it right. But yeah, and again that studios were willing to take a chance and weren't spending the equivalent of what they're spending now,
right?
200 million plus, and that expectation of, well, it's got to make $800 million or it's a failure. And it's like, that is such an unrealistic expectation in my view. And also that unfortunate Wall Street mentality of, well, every quarter we got to see a profit. And it's like, there are a finite group of people as far as who's like left on the planet. So I just think what's going on with the writer's strike and the SAG strike, I think part of it, the studios kind of unfortunately did to themselves, the rush to stream, the rush to put stuff on streaming immediately after it, does well or not at the box office. I think the entire community of movie watchers, a lot of people are still gun shy about going to the theaters, or don't feel the need to go to the theaters because they have a nice enough home entertainment system.
Yeah.
Why go through the hassle of, people on their phones and people who talk and all the other.
Yeah. I mean, for me as a parent of like 2 young children, I don't get out to the movies as much. And when I do, there's also the logic of like, well, it's going to be, I can watch it on my television if I wait a couple weeks, but I like the experience too. So you want to, I think that's what you're seeing theaters inch more towards, like the experiential movie going moment, but that's also expensive and it requires like investing in your business and changing the model. So yeah, I think we're in a pivot point, but I'm going to check that movie out. It sounds fascinating.
It's cool. It's really interesting. What else? What else have you got coming up, Alex? I don't even know.
On Monday Marvel dropped the first installment of a Polaris 4-part story, X-Men Unlimited, 96, and it'll run up to 99. And it's a noir X-Men story. It's a murder mystery. Polaris has to go to New Mexico to investigate a series of mutant murders, tying back to her early days there with Havoc and her days, not as, the thing about Polaris and Havoc that was always fascinating to me as a reader is that they always kind of pushed away from the idea of being superheroes. And so by the end of the first chapter, she's back in New Mexico and kind of digging around, and she connects with an unexpected other X character that she she's worried is involved, even though they're a hero. So that's kind of the final splash. And, those are fun because they're vertical scrolls. So you can read them on your phone. And so you write to the scroll. The artist, Alberto Albuquerque, did a great job. But one thing I try to be mindful of is that people are going to be looking at this. If you're on the video, you can see me scrolling, but, scrolling down. So, you try to think visually, or at least give the artist stuff to do visually that makes that interesting instead of just like panels that are stacked on top of each other. But that was a fun project. I've done a few of those. I did an Avengers one, I want to say last year, which was basically me just throwing together my favorite Avengers. Brevoort was like, just asked, what Avengers do you want to write? And I said Spider-Woman, Moon Knight, and the Shroud. Like, those are the ones I want to write. And Captain America we threw in there, but it was it was fun. And I've done a few little one-offs, but it's a great way to tell stories that are comics, but in a different medium. And I've also got a story in Marvel's Marvel Zombies, Black, White, and Red, which is I've got a story with Javi Fernandez starring Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man. And I grew up with Spider-Man, like millions and billions. I grew up with Spider-Man, but Peter Parker was my guy throughout all of my comic buying career. So it was fun to. I wrote him a little bit in the Aranya book in a flashback. He shows up, and I think I texted a friend. I was like, I'm writing Peter Parker now. But this is a full story, like a 10-page story, pretty much chronicling his lowest point ever. This zombie swarm is coming at him, and how does Peter respond to that? So that was intense, and that comes out in October. Lots of stuff going on.
That's great, man. Any more DC stuff coming up?
Yeah. I can't talk about it, but we've got some stuff that's happening. But yeah,
are they announcing it in San Diego or no?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
The fun part about being the talent, I guess, is I'm not as tied into the announcement stuff unless they give me a heads up before, which is fine. And I've got my two Zest World books, The Awakened, which is
yes, indeed. Please.
The Awakened is basically a love letter to teams like the JSA, All-Star Squadron, Avengers, but with a very noir twist. That's kind of, I guess, my thing, bringing the noir elements into different kinds of stories. It's a murder mystery. It's not Watchmen. I would say it's more akin to stuff like The Golden Age by James Robinson and Incognito by Brew Baker and Sean Phillips. But when sorry, there's like an ambulance.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's a murder. Yeah, it's New York.
Part of the tapestry of New York, absolutely.
Yeah, and the big question the story asks is, does having powers make you a hero? Like, just because you have superpowers, does that make you a hero? And the answer is no. You have to earn it. And what happens when you don't earn it, and what happens when you rush to get this power? So it's all told through the prism of those like superhero tropes, through this like Avengers type team. But it's been fun. It's co-written with Michael Moreci, who obviously does amazing stuff for Vault with Barbarian and has written novels and a bunch of different stuff. He wrote a Nightwing YA novel, graphic novel recently. Dean Kotz is the artist, and he's done stuff. Yeah, he did The Butcher of Paris with Stephanie Phillips, which was fantastic. He's done some Black Hammer stuff, and he really brings like a gritty, noir, not to keep saying noir, but a very noir vibe to the story. And in addition to that, I'm doing the Lynx comics, which spin out of Secret Identity. And what we're doing is we're serializing it on Zest World, so you can read it and scroll through it and read the episodes if you want to read it that way. But it'll also be in print from Image next year. And we're doing it so tongue-in-cheek. And, because if you know Secret Identity, you know that those excerpts are basically the comics that are in the novel. So Carmen Valdez writes these comics in secret, and then you kind of see interstitials of the comic. But now we're expanding it. We're putting them in color. Yeah. And we're very much treating it like this is a thing that happened that, I, Alex, and Sandy, the artist, are just rediscovering and remastering. So that's been fun. And it's been neat. Chris Ryle is it's going through his imprint at Image. So that's been fun. And he's like such a historian and comic history lover. So I think it'll be a good pairing.
Remind me of your comic. Wasn't it Comixology where you had your female superhero?
Yeah, the Black Ghost. And I also did a series called Blood Oath, which is basically the high concept there is, Boardwalk Empire meets vampires. It's like, what if there was another hidden gang of criminals aside from the gangs of New York, or what would eventually become the Five Families? but they were vampires. And instead of running liquor, they're running blood and using the infrastructure of bootlegging to run blood to make sure that they're fed. And yeah, it's kind of wild. And so the star or the protagonist is a woman who's a bootlegger on Staten Island, and her sister is kidnapped when a gang of vampires invade. Basically, they break the blood oath. There's an oath between the humans and the vampires that, hey, we'll do what benefits you, you'll do what benefits us, and we will not attack each other. And a rogue vampire named Jotham attacks this bootlegger. They kidnap her sister, who's apparently got a very rare blood type. And it's the story of the sister trying to save her sibling, and just kind of zooming out and showing this very complicated world where vampires exist in the 1920s.
That's great. I know that David...
It'll be in print from Dark Horse in February.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's great.
Thanks. Yeah.
Black Ghost is already in print, correct?
Yeah, the first 2 volumes are already in print. We've talked a little bit about doing a 3rd volume, but it's just kind of finding, it's got the stars have to line up a little bit.
Sure. I know David and Chip Mosier, Dave Steinberg and Chip Mosier are starting their new company. Story. Are you part of that?
I'm not. I mean, I'm not part of the first wave. I've known Chip a long time, and Dave obviously. So you never know. But it seems like a great lineup. I'm really curious to see what the Devil's Cut looks like. And it's A-list talent, so I'm sure it'll look great.
Oh, yeah.
But
no, I'm excited. In fact, just 2 days ago, I was talking to Stephanie Phillips about her story there. She mentioned too, with her Infinite comic, she did Millie the Spy. Millie the model as a shield agent. And she even said she played with the vertical storytelling, and even had a fight scene that happened on a staircase. So you kind of followed them falling down the stairs as they were beating each other up.
Yeah, one of the things we did with the Avengers story is we showed them kind of walking through town, except it was like a little bit slanted. So they start up at one point, and you see them going through the whole town, and it's just multiple shots of the heroes walking through and battling these villains. But yeah, it's a really fun, different kind of mindset to have, as opposed to like the traditional comics page. So
yeah, that's great. How about another Netflix show that I'm taking my time with because I don't want it to end, and I'm really enjoying it, is Schwarzenegger's new show, Fubar.
Oh yeah, it's on my list. I mean, I've always found him so charming. So yeah,
it's like another chapter of True Lies, like further down the line.
Oh really?
Way. Yeah.
Truer Lies.
Yeah, well, and it's not the same character, but it's a father-daughter that are spies.
Oh, cool.
I like his crew, and I like his wife, and everybody else in it. And it's it's funny, but also a good action show. So
what are you reading these days?
What am I reading these days?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Well, anytime Ed and Sean have something new, so
awesome.
I really loved Night
Fever. Yeah,
Night Fever. Thank you very much. So yeah, really enjoyed that recently. I try to catch up with my guests and read what they're doing. Book wise, what am I reading? Oh, God, a lot of Star Trek stuff. There's
the new John Jackson Miller is great.
I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I will. I am reading Una McCormack's prequel to the first season of Picard, which, God, it's a shame because I would have rather seen that as a TV series than the first season of Picard, because it really has him attempting to solve the Romulan supernova problem.
Yeah, I read that. That was a great book. Una's really talented. And then you see Geordi, you see all the, a lot of the key players.
And also, I think it informs Raffi a lot better. I think it informs Admiral Clancy, otherwise known as Admiral FU. And Magnus.
Well, that's the key to good tie-in novels. Is you find those little spaces, you fill them with meaningful story, and you end up kind of being additive. It's Star Wars does it really well because it's all canon and it's all goes through the same filter. I think the Trek stuff too is really strong lately.
Well, you see, and that's where I think, especially Strange New Worlds and Discovery for that matter, but right now I really liked the first season of Strange New Worlds, and I went in very hopeful with the second season, and I just think they take too many liberties with canon, and I wish they did do more of what I think the Trek novelists that we all mentioned just now, Mike Friedman and John Jackson Miller and the like, that they find a way of, as I always like to say, coloring within the lines. And obviously the vetting process for the novels is very strict, as far as what you can and can't do. Yeah, I don't know, man. And again, I won't go into detail because you haven't seen last week's episode.
Right.
But even what they're doing with the Gorn and making them more of like Alien,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, I don't know. And also,
you're a diehard. You're a diehard original series guy.
I've been watching it and reading all this stuff for 50 plus years,
Right?
man.
Yeah. It's
so
hard.
what are you gonna do? I mean, God, I thought Hemner, the engineer from last year, was one of the best characters. He was only in like a handful of episodes, and
I liked him a lot. Yeah, I mean, but that's good. It makes you miss them.
That's fair. But and also, hey, I'm thrilled that Carol Kane is part of the cast. I love her.
Yeah, that was great. Great casting.
And we have a couple mutual friends, and again the SAG strike, because really I'm like, I got to get Carol on Word Balloon. I'm like, my God,
yeah.
not just for Star Trek. I mean, my God, Simca and Hester Street and When a Stranger
where do you begin? Like, she's got a great filmography.
Like Andy Robinson. I mean, these wonderful roles, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, what I'm trying to think what else is coming up. I've got a lot, and the Link stuff is good. I turned in the sequel to Secret Identity. I literally turned it in as I was landing in LA in March.
Wow.
Or April, landing in LA for the LA Times Book Prize. And so I was like, either this is a good omen or a bad one, but I'm sending the sequel as I land. And then we ended up winning, which was fantastic for Secret Identity. Yeah, that was great. So that's coming out next summer. Dark Space comes out late next year.
Okay.
There's a few other things that haven't been announced that I'm excited about, but just trying to kind of balance the novel stuff with the comic stuff, which has been good.
That's great, Alex. Truly. I mean, honestly, we've known each other a long time.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to see that things are working out for you as a writer.
Thanks, man.
100%. My God, man. So this will be great. We'll have more to talk about then when we see
for sure.
But right now, everybody on the stands, you really have to get Aranya, Spider-Man 2099, Dark Tomorrow, and I don't have the cover handy, but the Star Wars shot the Star Wars shot that is Poe Dameron, but also pick up. It just came out last week. Night Terrors, Green Lantern #1, and then issue 2 coming out in August.
Yeah,
so that's great to see. And the award-winning Secret Identity, of course, available for you, Volume 1.
Yeah, and you can pick up Edge of Spider-Verse #4. It's got an Aranya story with drawn by Enid Balam, who's great, super talented. There's also a cool Daniel Kibblesmith story in there as well. Yeah, lots of stuff. Trying to keep it all going.
Attaboy, man. Well,
Thanks,
we're going to pick up conversation next weekend at Terrificon.
Yeah, for sure.
We're doing a panel, and of course, I'm sure we'll find some time to hang out. And
we'll grab a meal.
I was going to say either grab a meal or grab a coffee or something. That would be great, bud. As always, man. No, great to see you. Keep it up. And anytime there's something new, time for another talk.
Thank you, sir. Always a treat. Thanks again.
Likewise. Everybody, thanks for watching. Tomorrow, a really great conversation with Jesse Blaze Snyder. And we'll try to do as good as we just did with Alex. Thanks a lot for the questions. Thank you for the tips.
Thanks, everybody.
And until next time, take care.